All right, today I'm really honored to have Scott here with me. He is a very experienced wine rep for Martine Wines, and he so graciously brought a handful of really cool wines from his book. So we're gonna try and taste a bunch of different wines together and see which wines are delicious and which ones we will offer in the near future. All right, let's do it.
Sounds good.
What do we have?
So I brought you an interesting range, mostly old world, but let's start with this wine. So I don't know if you've heard of Thorne and Daughters, but this is a great winemaker, a South African winemaker. His name is John Secom, and he and his wife does all the labels, and he makes about 10 different wines. He's Western Cape, and this is a bottling from a very, very, very tiny vineyard in Citrusdale Mountain, and I think this is like dead ringer for like great Alto Adige Sauvignon.
Nice.
I tasted, I've had his whole range. All the wines are wonderful. He's probably best known for a white blend he makes called Rocking Horse White. He makes a fair amount of Pinot Noir, which is kind of not necessarily what people associate with South Africa.
Right.
Maybe more Sasso or Pinotage. But this is my favorite wine he makes.
Okay.
And I've got a few of the really top wine directors in San Francisco put it on their wine list. And I was thinking about bringing you some things that were maybe, out of the ordinary.
Nice.
I don't even think this is a 200 case production wine.
Wow.
It's about 180 cases. But again, it's just, it's very much a wine made in the vineyard. There's no new wood on this at all. And vineyard is pretty old. I think it's about 35 years old. Planted on decomposed granite. And I wanted to start with this, of course. Yeah, really not a lot of manipulation at all, but just a really, really great site. And I was just enamored with this wine. This is a producer who, while he's quite small, he's really, I think, gaining some real notoriety. His importer, Vine Street Imports, great wine professional, started by Ronnie Sanders. Really back 20 plus years ago, was really trumpeting Australia in a big way. Producers like this, small vineyard-based producers, still very much involved in Australia, but in the last, I'd guess 7 or so years, has really got involved in South Africa as a staple of some of the really best young winemakers. Very, I'd really kind of classify them as kind of garagistes.
Nice.
These are very small, non-commercial winemakers, but really seeking out great vineyard sites that really, speak to kind of this next generation of what can happen in South Africa.
First of all, I really appreciate the fact that the wine is not too cold, because sometimes when it's too cold, you're like, you can't taste anything. Second of all, for Sauvignon Blanc, I feel like most people's perception for Sauvignon Blanc is very lean and mean, and most people think of Sauvignon Blanc coming from New Zealand is very passion fruity, star fruity, lemon lime, like just really citrusy. And I think that also leads to, because I see two groups of people, the people who like their Chardonnay and the people who like their Sauv Blanc. A lot of people don't like Sauv Blanc because they don't want that really bright, acidic kind of a mouthfeel. But what I find in this wine, especially on the nose, is that there is a good chunk of white floral and that like tree fruit, so it's not just citrus fruit, it's got a good amount of tree fruit, that apple thing, peaches thing going on. That's very satisfying, and it says it was aged in used oak barrel.
Completely neutral, larger oak.
Yeah, which I think is nice because it runs out the edges a bit, but it's not overtaking the characteristic of what the Sauvignon Blanc is supposed to be. So.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because I feel like regions like South Africa is often overlooked compared to United States and whatever have you, but you usually get such a great value in the bottle because blends are cheaper, labor's cheaper, even with like the importing fee and everything, usually still reasonable. Amazing.
Yeah, really, really high quality, and like I may have said off camera, I said to you just privately, but this wine is under 200 case production. This is a tiny production wine made from a very, very specific site, Citrusdale Mountain.
Really nice acidity in the backdrop.
Yeah,
too.
the acidity is what kind of takes me to Sauvignon.
Yeah. I love it.